Hi, I'm Catherine Llewellyn, the host of the podcast. You can find out all about Truth and Transcendence on truthandtranscendence.com. And you can find out all about me on beingspace.world, where you will find my online coaching offering as well as my UK-based workshops. The Freedom of Spirit workshop for liberation and empowerment, the Pellower Radical Shift in Consciousness workshop for spiritual expansion, and transformational coaching for exploring the mind-body-spirit connection on the expansive path. You can also support the podcast by actually making a donation. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. And today I'm delighted to welcome special guest Tamara Zoner. Tamara is a speaker and coach on a mission to create greater happiness in the world by teaching individuals and groups the actions and habits of happiness. A show not tell single mum to 3 awesome kids and a karaoke enthusiast, Tamara demonstrates daily how to create the life you love. I mean, how fantastic that sounds. And you can find Tamara at alifeyoulovenow.com. So, Tamara, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's such a pleasure. So, when we were talking before in the pre-call, and we can never cover everything about a guest in one episode, but I was asking you about what kind of themes are you really connected to that feel really meaningful to you? And one of them was treating others as you desire to be treated. So I was reflecting on that this morning and thinking, okay, so we've all heard that idea. And I think a lot of us have kind of normalized that idea as a sort of a slogan. But I felt like you've got a bit of a more meaningful connection to that. So would you like to lead off by letting us know why that is so meaningful for you?
Sure. I feel like nobody wants to be yelled at or disrespected or brushed off. We all want to be seen and heard. That's a core human driver, is to be seen for who we are and to have what matters to us be heard by people that matter. And it seems like such a small, totally possible thing to start treating people in the way that you want to be treated. But we're human. And so we don't always do that. We might be in a mood or have a particular, Monday kind of a morning. And we aren't present to how we want to feel or be. And we react instead of respond. But imagine a world where we were all treating others lovingly, respectfully, and every person we interact with, we treat them like we want to be treated. It comes from such a place of grounded integrity, and it would literally transform the world in a day. In a day. If we all just were honest. Because I think too, Catherine, that the thing that's missing for people to treat people how they want to be treated is their own honesty about where they are and how they are in their lives. And so they can't even see how they're being because there's so much chaos on the inside that it's impossible to treat others how they want to be treated because they're only reacting from a space of how they've been treated. And to pause, which I have practiced, so this is coming from experience as I tried to shift the way that I parented and treated other people in my life, where I would feel the reaction brewing, but I would pause and ask myself, remember to love this person. Remember that you do love this person. And now speak. And it changed my relationships. And I continue to practice that because I'm human. I get impatient. I have a night where I don't sleep well or my back hurts. I'm 50 now. And so we might react from how we're feeling in the world today, but it's essential for humanity to get better than it currently is, to take that pause, to practice the pause, to cultivate the pause, and remember that we're talking to people we actually care about.
Yeah, amazing. In amongst what you just said, which was beautiful, you said something about we're not present to actually knowing how it is we would desire to be treated. Could you say a bit more about that? That really intrigued me.
Yes, I think that, from birth, we're treated a certain way by whoever is taking care of us and whoever is teaching us and whoever is guiding us. And so we learn that that's the way that we're supposed to treat others, because really all we're doing in those early years is receiving and repeating. And so as we grow, and most of us come to this certain point in our life where we think, oh, I don't really like this. And we decide differently, or we just keep going in this pre-programmed pattern. So the people among us who decide they don't like it and they want to do things differently, like you and I perhaps, and like I'm sure a lot of your listeners, and that's one of the reasons they're listening, is that we wake up and say, ooh, something has to change. And if we're really conscious and aware, that something is us. And when we shift that inside experience, we're able to show up more presently. We're able to be in the roundabout. And instead of just reacting and calling somebody a name or honking the horn, we go, ooh, maybe they're having a really bad day. And thank you for helping me remember to drive more carefully. There's a subtle but really vital shift. And when I say vital, I don't just mean important, but like our own vitality shifts. And then we respond from a place of beingness instead of just that reaction when we're on autopilot or completely unconscious in our lives.
Yeah.
So just taking that time to really go, where am I? I always ask my clients and myself to, when they're having a bad day, they're like, oh, I totally slacked off on, the practices you gave me and I reacted like I used to, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, okay, can you tell me what was going on for you? Like the couple of days before. How did you sleep? So there's like a mental checklist that I like to go through. How did you sleep? What were you eating? Were you drinking more alcohol than you might normally drink? Did you exercise this week? Like, what is happening for you? What are you doing or not doing that's impacting how you're being? And instead of going back and falling back to that inner critical voice, like shaming ourselves, we can just go, oh, okay, I didn't get sleep. I didn't sleep well. I was in a new bed, or, I had guests and I was worried about whatever it is. Paying attention to that allows us to make the subtle shifts that we need to make to get a better night's sleep tomorrow. Or I should drink a little less this week than I did last week on vacation, right? That's me.
No.
And just taking that time to presence ourselves. And we're so rushed in this society. It's so vital that we permit ourselves to slow down and pause so we can regroup and really take care of ourselves. Because when we do, we take better care of the people that we love and that we're meant to be taken care of, whether it's clients or friends or kids or partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're treating ourselves as we would desire to be treated.
Exactly.
Which then allows us to treat others as we would desire to be treated.
Exactly. With love and with patience and with respect. I mean, it boils down to those three.
I mean, one example that just sprang to my mind when you were talking was the example of how many hours have you sat staring at the screen in the last 24 hours? That kind of, because I noticed that in my own life, if I'm just kind of not in a good space, often I can just look around, okay, how long am I sitting staring at the screen before I have a break?
Yes.
And I might thinking, well, if I just power through, I can get this done and then I can look after myself tomorrow.
Ha. Mm-hmm.
You recognize that one?
And I think most people will. And I say that, like, that's not serving us, right? That it might serve the to-do list. It definitely will do. But it won't serve us. So one of the things that I learned to do as I launched my own business and kind of left the 40-hour or so work week of the US and launched my own coaching and speaking business was work in what I used to think of as extras, like my yoga or a good night's sleep. That's now part of my work responsibility. So yoga is part of my workday. Meditation is part of my workday. Frequent breaks are part of my workday because as a coach, I have to ask myself, am I being of service if I'm unrested, powering through, if I'm waiting to empty my bladder because I only have 2 minutes between calls instead of a space of maybe 15 minutes where I can get up, walk around, go to the bathroom, refill my water, right? So, and it's fun to see this in action because as I teach these skills, and this is a skill, right? Self-care is a skill to my clients, they'll remind me to build that in. So on days when I have back-to-back clients and they know it, that I'm coming from one call to another, I have this one client who'll say, well, why don't we meet at the quarter after the hour so that you have just a little more time? Okay, yeah, that's perfect because I only will take 3 clients in one day. I won't take more than that because I'm protecting my personal peace and my energy so that I can be the greatest servicer that I can be. And I can't do that depleted. I can't be a good parent if I'm depleted. I can't be a good podcast guest if I'm depleted. So I think of my own self-care in a way that is a service to others and everyone that I work with and live with.
Beautiful. Well, your client doing that with you is a perfect example of them treating you the way they would like to be treated, isn't it?
It is.
That's a fantastic result right there.
Right.
Isn't that interesting? You're doing work where a sign of a positive result in your work is that your clients are taking care of you. That's the situation that you render.
It's really beautiful that connection is made.
That's very cool indeed. Really great. So
right. It's just I wish the whole world were like that, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, some of us do that some of the time, and some of us kind of, we're all kind of in different spaces around that, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
The thing about self-criticism,
Mhm.
I assume within this, we don't criticize ourselves for yesterday we didn't take care of ourselves.
Right. No, we forgive ourselves like immediately. We give ourselves grace because if we are criticizing, we're pushing ourselves down again. We're depleting ourselves through that self-criticism. And we see this in studies, right, of self-talk, the way that we talk to ourselves, a plant, a person, inhibits or accelerates growth and opening. So it's really vital that we curb that critical talk and we learn how to forgive ourselves. That's one of the most important pieces of personal growth. If we want to change the status quo of our lives, we have to forgive ourselves for what we did before today. Because it's only from that place of forgiveness that we open a space for change.
Yeah, beautiful. So, were you this clear about all of this when you were born?
When I was born, I'm sure I was. And then about 5 years later, when I made some decisions about the world, that clarity went away because, like many people, my home life wasn't always very peaceful. It was a bit chaotic. My mom struggled with mental illness. My dad worked about 20 hours a day. And so I didn't see examples of what I'm talking about. I did not grow up witnessing this. And and so I went through, that asleep task list of life. I just had to go to school. I should work really hard. I should work myself to the bone, in fact, is what I learned. And I grew up Catholic in the Catholic Church, and which is one of the reasons John and I did that previous podcast, which was a lot of fun, because what I learned from church was that God comes first, then maybe your parents, then your family, then your neighbor, then the person across the street, and like 50 lines down, maybe you could consider yourself. And it was also confusing. So there was a part of me that stayed really innocent and ideal because I can remember being a very young child in church going, oh, this makes sense to me. I don't understand this. And then I remember being in church going, or in a classroom with someone who was a different religion. And I remember thinking, well, what I've learned is that they're going to go to hell just because they don't believe the same thing I do. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And so all of my like growing up years, I was learning this stuff at home and at church and not understanding. It didn't make sense to me. So the day my mom said that I could make my own choices, which was when I turned 18, I stopped going to church like that day. And she was very sad for me. And she cried a little. And I just told her, Mom, I don't need a middleman.
Brilliant. No, you don't.
I don't. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. There's so many conflicting messages in the world, in our lives. And if we all just boiled it back to treating others the way we want to be treated, not the way the Bible says to, not the way our teacher says to, not the way our father says to, but the way we want to be treated, this world would be so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, good for you. Honestly, you could have just really not done that. You could have just stuck with the program.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were pretty sparky, pretty feisty. Yeah. You know what? I am out of here.
Yeah, I'm very firm in my beliefs, and I have this inner sense of justice, that's really always driven me to kind of reach out. I'm that kid in school who had friends from every group. I never could claim a group except maybe like the theater nerds in high school. But I wanted to be friends with everybody. And I just see people and I see their hearts. And so then I want to draw them near me because they deserve love and I have a lot to give.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And were there any particular experiences or studies or practices that you took on and got absorbed with and kind of that helped you develop towards this stunning woman that you are now, doing this incredible work?
Well, at university, I studied sociology and psychology and family dynamics and human development. And so that helped me shape a lot of and also multiple religions. I took a religious studies course one semester and learned about Buddhism. And that really opened my mind to a different way of living. Like there isn't just this one way, right? And then pretty fresh out of university, I met a charming Frenchman, fell head over heels. He swept me off my feet quite literally, and we moved across the world after getting married, like within 6 months of meeting him. And that experience shaped me significantly in the way that I began to shut myself down. I didn't know him when I married him. He was very charming with a great accent and gave me this opportunity to explore the world that I hadn't before. And the adventurer in me was like, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I'll marry you. Sure, I'll move to Singapore 8 months after I've met this person. And now we're married and I don't really know him. But here I am in Singapore. And over the years, we were 5 years in Singapore, I got to know him. And he was very controlling, very subtly manipulating. So I didn't even realize the shutting down of who I truly am. I got quieter, which is not like me at all. I got smaller. I turned more internally and stopped like my friendliness, my natural flirtiness was very much not appreciated. And so I really spent years shutting myself down to make him more comfortable so that also I was more comfortable because then I wasn't receiving very negative feedback from him. And then because I'd sort of shut down my natural knowing at that point, I fell back into the checklist of life, which was, oh, we're married. Now we're supposed to have kids. And so we had children. The first two were 15 months apart. So that was very, very quick back to back. And after our second child, after our first child, we moved back to the States. But in my home state, but a couple of hours away from where I grew up and where any of my family was. And it's like being in another country when you have a baby and you're 2 hours away from family. So, and then we very quickly had another baby. And then I really got to know who my husband was because he did not support me at all. I was supposed to show up when he walked through the door at the end of his workday. Babies should be quiet and bathed. I should be bathed and dressed and makeup. And I should have an aperitif ready for him when he walked in the door. And the house should be very clean. And then I should put the children to bed after he gets his little, I feel like a papa time, and then be present with him to make dinner with him and eat dinner with him, and then go to bed at like 11 o'clock and do it all again the next day. And it was exhausting. And I did this for years, trying to make it right, until I discovered and synchronicity led me to the passion test. And this is the tool that I still use. Actually, I'm running a passion test workshop this weekend. I met this woman at a networking event and we traded business cards. And at this point, my husband and I were trying to find some common ground. So we had opened a wine store. He's French. We both love wine. And so I was doing the networking because he doesn't like peopling. And that gave me permission to leave him at home with the kids and go out and actually socialize, which was great for me. And I traded business cards with this woman named Michelle. And I read on her card, Certified Passion Test Facilitator. And I'd never heard of this. I didn't know what it was, but I felt that full body chill and knowing. I just knew I had to know more. I had to meet her again. And so we arranged to have coffee. And I signed up to become a certified passion test facilitator before I really knew what it was. I hadn't even taken the test. I was just in. I knew. My body knew. Everything in me knew. And here we are, let's see, 13 years later. And this is still the number one tool that I use with myself and every single private client, whether it's a group or a one-on-one. We do the passion test first because it helps us to clarify what we want life to look like and feel like, what we want to do, what we want to be, how we want to feel, what we want to be surrounded with, who we want to be surrounded with. And it gets you really, really, really clear so that you can begin making choices that support those priorities in your life. And everything else you practice letting fall away so that it's what matters the most to you that you're giving your energy to. And with that, you get that return. So you feel more joy, you feel more fulfilled, you feel more peace. And it's a really, really special tool that I probably will never stop practicing. And that led me to be the woman you see before you, because it helped me come home to myself and recognize and finally get honest with myself that this marriage was toxic. And if I stayed, I would not survive. I would not survive. And my children wouldn't survive. We'd all get through, but we would not be thriving. We would not be healthy. We would not be okay. And so that too will help me see myself again, reclaim what I had really, to put it empoweredly, given away to him. Because no one can take things away. We hand things over. And that included my voice. That included my bubbliness, my spark, my joy. I gave it away to try to get him to be nice. And that didn't work. So eventually I gave up that too and found myself again and worked back to my heart. And that courage bloomed again. And then I remembered who I was. Like I had been as a young child and as a young adult going, this doesn't make sense. This makes sense to me. Let me do this. And so here I am again. And then I was able to leave that marriage. My kids are grateful too. Because it shifted everything. And who I am outside of someone else's chains is a woman I really love.
Amazing. Well, again, well done on that
Thank you.
point. Of course, you must have learned an awful lot that helps you with understanding your clients' situations.
So much. And I'm grateful for everything that I've gone through because it really does help me identify with the people who are attracted to working with me specifically. I've been through divorce, I've been through abuse, I've been through mental illness on both sides of it, and I'm a parent and therefore I know all of the excuses. And I can call BS on them because if I can do it, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, except they may have to do the work.
Yeah, they do have to do the work.
This has not been an easy path that you've just described.
No.
There's been some really hard work along the way and some very courageous decisions.
100%. And I had a client ask me this year recently, well, okay, but when will I just be happy? When am I done? Like doing all this work? And I was like, I practice happiness every day. I never quit. I might take a couple of days off and then I notice the effects and then I get back to work. We're done. There's no, oh, I hit the goal. I achieved it. Now I don't have to get up and do yoga anymore. I'll just be happy and zen for the rest of my life. That doesn't exist. I want to feel good in my body, heart, and mind. And so every day, and I'll put every day in quotes and say that every day really means like 5 or 6 days a week. You can take one day to do nothing, one day to veg out on Netflix, or one day to eat a pizza instead of a salad or whatever. We're human, everything in moderation. I fully support that. And most days we need to be doing the work that we have found serves us at the highest level. So for me, it's yoga all over the place. But not every client of mine loves yoga. Maybe they prefer to take a walk. Maybe they prefer to ride a bike. Exercise is a vital part of loving life and being clear. And then there's that stillness and the quiet and the self-talk. So maybe that means journaling. Maybe that means meditating. Maybe that means a really honest, good, loving friend that we can work through things with, or a therapist or a coach. But every day we do the work on some level. And so even on those days where we are like, nope, it's a Netflix day, I'm just going to Netflix and chill, and I'm going to eat what I feel like eating, even if that means it's ice cream for dinner. And I'm not going to beat myself up about it because I'm choosing this consciously. So that's the key there, is when we need a day off, we're doing it very consciously, and we're not going to regret it tomorrow, because that's loving ourselves too. Like, I get to just eat this bowl of ice cream with yummy hot fudge. This is what I love. And watch Queer Eye for hours on end. Whatever.
I've never even heard of Queer Eye, but
Oh, it's so good.
I shall check it out.
Yes, it's so good.
The passion test sounds incredible.
It is.
That thing you said about you saw those words and something immediately, sparked for you. I think that's such an important moment. There are some things I work with where people sometimes get, oh, yeah, that's it. That's what I need to do. And other people, it's no, there's just no, it doesn't register. And then there's something else will register.
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry about the thing that doesn't register.
Right.
Over the thing that does register, follow that.
Absolutely. I'm very good at following my inner guidance. And now, right? For some years I wasn't, because I had shut it down. I had shut myself down. But as soon as I started opening to that, and I would say yes, even when I didn't know how, and that's one of the key points in the passion test, is the how is none of your business. You get the yes, you get the what, you move toward it, you make choices toward it every single day. Every choice, every decision, every breath is a move in favor of what you're wanting to create in your life. And so there have been times when I'm like, I don't know why I'm saying yes to this, but I'm saying yes to this because I am just getting that guidance. I'm getting that like behind the back, whoosh, go this direction. And so I say yes, and it always works out. It's always beautiful. I've I've gotten jobs that way. I started my business that way. I started my business after working in senior living for 6 years, knowing that I wanted to get back to doing coaching and speaking full time. But I also needed to feed my kids as I left my marriage, you know. And so after 4 years at this one place, loving my job, but COVID had hit. So it wasn't the fun director of life enrichment job that I had known for 4 years. Now everybody was locked in their apartments and I could just call them and try to cheer them up. I thought, okay, when is it time for me to close this door? When is it time? And I asked, there was a period of time where I sat and meditated and asked periodically. And then there was a time where I sat and asked daily. And I said one day, finally, okay, if you're sending me messages, I'm not getting them. So I need you to make it so clear that I cannot miss it. So please, when it's time for me to leave this job and go on my own, make that message crystal clear. That day, I get to my desk at work and I open up Facebook to do a social media post for the community. And I see a post from a friend of mine who had posted an angel card of sorts. And it was a picture of a door. And it said, "Here's your door. When will you walk through it?" And I cracked up. And I was like, okay, I got you. Now do it 2 more times in a row so I can be sure. And they did. I got 2 more very clear messages 2 days in a row. So I wrote my resignation letter, put it in a drawer, and I was like, all right, I'm going to need guidance to when is the right time. And again, it was like this whoosh of energy pulling me into my boss's office, telling her, okay, you've got 2 months with me. And then I gave them 2 months notice because I loved my people so much. I wanted to make sure they found someone suitable to replace me who I could train so that they would take as good of care of my residents as I did. So that, like, guidance is a really important thing to listen to, and I trust it, but I'm also a Capricorn, and so I'm also not that trusting. So they got to make it really clear for me, and when they do, I'm in.
Awesome. Fantastic. You've got that whole dialogue going on between you and spirit or
Yes.
which I just think is so charming. I have that to some extent, and I have other friends who have that to some extent. That's I kind of, okay, what do you want? What do I need to do?
Yes.
And then it's sometimes great, fantastic. Other it's, oh God, do I have to?
Right.
Actually, now is the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no wonder you're so vibrant. Your energy is so vibrant, and it's that sort of uncluttered presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also loved that term you said earlier on about we can presence ourselves. I thought I've not heard that as a verb before. We can presence ourselves, which is such a great way of putting it.
Yes. Yes.
So,
like,
if you think about, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people in the world trying to be helpful at the moment, and obviously things are interesting, confusing, unpredictable, great in other ways, etc., etc., etc.
yeah.
And obviously some of these people will be listening to this right now. You've had like a whole life journey to get to this point.
Yeah.
They don't have that much time, right,
Mm.
to kind of get to grips with some of what you were talking about.
Sure.
Is there something you'd like to say to those people that would help them connect to some of what you've learned and what you're doing with your clients and actually use it to help be part of the solution, which is what they want to do?
Mm. Yes. I love what you said a moment ago about being uncluttered, because that's a really important piece. First of all, you have to start right where you're at because you can't be anywhere else. So no matter what change you're hoping for in your own life, it actually does begin with some uncluttering. And so to use that term again, to presence yourself, to make space. You're never going to have time. You're never going to have the space. You're never going to have it already, but you have to create it for yourself and you have to take it. So for instance, every week I declutter my office because day after day I end up with kids stuff in here, papers from school, my own crap, the mail. It gets cluttered again. just like we do with life, all the stuff going on. So we get to take time, make time to do our internal and external decluttering. And all it really takes, no matter where we're at in our life, is a decision. You know, I might have felt 10 years ago that I didn't have time, or 12. Now it's, gosh, time is fine. So it's now 13 years that I've really been on like this strong, I know where my feet are planted journey. But if you have an inkling of like life is not right for me right now, but you're trying to do good in the world, then do better for yourself first and declutter. Like, I work at a yoga studio. I work with other yoga teachers. And there's a real difference between the yoga teacher that comes in who lives her yoga than the one who does the yoga. I want to be a person in the world who lives what I teach. And I teach from that place of authenticity because I've been there and I know what it takes. I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I've done, what works, and how we can work it in. Like, if you can't find peace in your day because you're trying to make peace out there and you've got kids over here and they all need your attention, then find one single minute today. It could be when you're on the toilet. I love to work in pee-pee time meditation because I know for sure you're going to the bathroom several times a day. If that's the only time you have to take 10 deep breaths, then that's the time you take, and you notice how you feel. You'll feel better. And then you take that more grounded, more presenced version of yourself out the bathroom door and into the world. It's that easy. It's simple. It's not always easy, but I want to make it easy and accessible for people. So seriously, if the only time you have is the drive to work, is while you wait in a fast food line for your food, why not take 10 breaths there? If you're eating that food, you need a few extra breaths to help your body process it. Or the bathroom, or whatever it is, you're standing in line. See if you can put your phone away and take a few deep breaths. You start wherever you're at. You work with the time that you can make, and you'll notice as you begin to practice in tiny bite-sized chunks that you like it and you want more of it. And so you build that in. And you might know this, Catherine, but like, when we start to do this work and we take the time and we make the time for ourselves, time expands for us. And you'll think you just spent an hour meditating and it was really 2 minutes. Or you get so much more done than you've normally done in 15 minutes time. You're like, wow, how did I knock all that out? Because time will expand for you when you're fully present and in a moment. And it's magical. And you don't have to believe it. You just have to try it.
Fantastic. That is so accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Just said, so accessible and delightful. There's nothing onerous about that. You know, I've come across, programs, I've even designed programs that, in theory are going to be really, really helpful, but they're really hard work and not much fun.
Right.
So that whole energy of fun and let's enjoy it.
Yes.
And let's just do it in those moments which already exist.
Yes.
One of mine is putting away the washing, which can be just a chore that I'm annoyed with.
Yes.
Or it can be a bit of peaceful movement, meditation.
Yes. Oh, totally.
Amazing.
Yeah. Start where you're at. That's
Not where you're at. Wow. Yeah. Well, Tamara, this conversation has been so amazing. I could happily talk to you for hours. And the passion test sounds amazing.
Yes.
If people go to your website, will they find out more about that?
They will, and I offer one-on-ones online, so you can be anywhere in the world. If your heart's going, ooh, I want more of that, I want to know, then we can do that. Yep.
Fantastic. So I'll just remind everyone that you are to be found at alifeyoulovenow.com.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tamara, we've talked about quite a lot, actually, lots of different layers today. which has been great. Has there been a favorite part of our conversation for you today?
Oh, this is my first podcast conversation in a while. So the whole thing's kind of my favorite. And I'm remembering how much I love these conversations and how alive I feel when I have them. So really, I think that aliveness of being in conversation with a beautiful open heart spirit like yours is my favorite part, Catherine. And I really do enjoy talking to you. We've had several conversations now, and I enjoy every one of them. I kind of want to hang out in your living room with a cup of tea and chat more.
Thank you. Well, I've loved it as well for exactly the same reason. It's just very uplifting to actually invest energy into the light, the light side, without pretending the shadow side's not there.
They exist.
Investing in the light. That's how we expand it, isn't it?
Yes. Beautiful phrasing. Yeah.
So would you like, some guests like to do this, would you like to give the listeners a kind of reflection question that they can take away that will help them engage with some of what you've been talking about?
Ooh, yes. Okay, let me think for a moment or feel for a moment. I like to feel about things. The question I would love for them to explore is, when was the first time you dimmed your light? When was the first time? Go back, notice, no judgment, and explore like what was going on for you that you felt you needed to close that bright light in your heart. And then you can go deeper. You can go deeper and you can explore how to reopen it up if you haven't yet. Because many people think, oh, I don't have any passions. There's, nothing excites me. But it did. When did you shut that down? And we have to discover that point so that we can go right back there and open it back up.
Beautiful. That really struck me in the heart when you said that. It's a very beautiful question. Thank you so much. And thanks again. It's been lovely to spend time with you again. I look forward to the next time, whenever and whatever that might be.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Tamara Zoner. So thank you, everyone who is watching and listening, because every time you do that, that actually helps spread the light, as we were talking about. Do check out Tamara's work at alifeyoulovenow.com. Really beautiful work and really uplifting. And spread the word. Tell your friends. Comment on what we were discussing today. Give us a good rating. All these things really help with spreading the word of the show. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. And thanks again to Tamara. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. It really helps if you give a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, a review, and share with your friends. If you're looking for transformational coaching or an intensive transformational weekend workshop experience, I can help with that. You can actually help the show by making a donation. Until next time, take care.